Shalom Aleichem Rabotai. This is the Mishnah Yomi Shir for the 16th of Nisan, pre-recorded, obviously, and we are in chapter 6 of Pesachim on Mishnah Hey. HaPesach sheshchatu shelo lishmo b'Shabbos. What if somebody slaughtered a Paschal lamb, but with the wrong intention? He slaughtered it not for the purpose of a Passover offering on Shabbat. Hayav alav chatat. He is chayiv to bring another carbon chatas, and he's going to have to bring that one on a weekday, Rabbi Say. He's going to have to bring that not on a Shabbos. He's chayiv to bring a sin offering because he has desecrated the Sabbath. As we mentioned yesterday by Chagiga, we don't bring a Chagiga on Shabbat because the shechita and the bringing of the carbon, the slaughter, and all of the rituals that are necessary, that are forbidden activities on Shabbat, are only permitted b'moado for Pesach, not for Chagiga. So here it was a Pesach, but he slaughtered it, for example, for the sake of an ola or a chatas or something else. And the Mishnah continues, Ushar kol zvachim, but if it was a different animal, it wasn't supposed to be a Paschal lamb, sheshchaton l'shum Pesach, and he slaughtered this cow for the sake of a Pesach. So then there's a chiluk here. Im einon re'uyin, if it's an animal that could not become a Pesach, it's, for example, a cow, chayev. Then he has to bring a chatat, he's desecrated the Sabbath. Im re'uyin hen, but if it was a sheep or a goat, a lamb, Rabbi Eliezer, mechayev chatas. Rabbi Eliezer says he's still chayev. Rabbi Yeshua says he's not obligated to bring a carbon chatas for desecrating the Sabbath. Now, the issue here is Rabbi Yeshua is bringing up an issue we've mentioned called ta b'dvar mitzvah. He's making a mistake while he's trying to do a mitzvah. So if he says, well, I'm sorry, I thought this little lamb was a carbon Pesach, was a Paschal lamb, and it really wasn't. Lamaisa, it wasn't, but he thought it was. So he was making a mistake trying to do a mitzvah, and that's not good. He's still broken the Sabbath, but he's not obligated to bring a carbon for that, according to Rabbi Yeshua. Now, Rabbi Eliezer argues on Rabbi Yeshua. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, ma'im Pesach. He says, what about the Pesach? Shu muter lishmo. That on Shabbat, it's allowed to bring a Pesach for the sake of a Pesach. After all, it says b'moado, as we've said in the past 2 days. Kishashina et shmo, but when you change its name, meaning you slaughter this carbon Pesach for the sake of a chatas, or the sake of a nazir's shlamim or something, chayev. Then he's desecrated the Sabbath. He has to bring an offering for that. Zvachim, other sacrifices, other animals, they weren't supposed to be a Passover offering. Shenasurin lishman, you can't bring them on a Pesach that falls on Shabbat. It's forbidden to do so. Kashashina shman, if you change their name to try to make them into a Paschal lamb, einodin chayev. So certainly they should be chayev. Amar Rabbi Yeshua loy. Yeshua says the logic doesn't necessarily flow like you're saying, Rabbi Eliezer. Ima Marta, if you're saying b'Pesach, sheshina l'davar aser, a Pesach that you're trying to change into a chatas, and it's Shabbos, you can't bring a chatas on Shabbos, so that would be a problem. Definitely be chayev. Tomar b'zvachim sheshina l'davar mutter. But here we're talking about a sheep or a goat, a young goat, a kid that it could theoretically be a carbon Pesach, and he's trying to make it into a carbon Pesach, and you're allowed to bring a carbon Pesach. If this animal really were supposed to be designated as a carbon Pesach, it would have been mutter to bring it on Shabbat. So therefore, you could say it's pater because of ta b'devar mitzvah. He thinks he's doing a mitzvah, he has some sort of valid excuse, so he should not be chayav a carbon, according to Rabbi Yeshua. Amr Rabbi Eliezer is back, a murit tzibur yochichu. The limbs of a carbon tzibur will prove you wrong. Shen mutarin lishman. It is mutter to burn the limbs of a tzibur offering, a public communal offering, such as the tamid, the constant offerings of the morning and the afternoon, or the musafin, that we daven our prayer, our tefillah to musaf, connected the additional musaf offerings that were brought on Rosh Chodesh, and Shabbos, and Yom Tov. So it's allowed on Shabbos and Yom Tov to burn the limbs from these offerings. But still, a shochet lishman, chayiv, if somebody takes a different animal that's not a carbon sibur, it's not supposed to be a tamid or a musaf, and he slaughters it for the sake of a tamid or a musaf, he's chayiv. Even though he's making a mistake, well, he's trying to do a mitzvah. After all, it's a mitzvah to bring the tamid even on Shabbos. It's a mitzvah to bring the musaf even on Shabbos and on Yom Tov. So therefore, Rabbi Eliezer is saying, doing a sin, breaking Shabbos with shechita of this animal while he's trying to do a mitzvah, doesn't make him exempt from bringing a carbon for breaking Shabbos. Amar Rabbi Yeshua says back to Rabbi Eliezer, no, your logic does not prove your argument. Ima Marta, if you're talking about Emorid Tzibur, limbs of the public offerings, sheyesh lachen kitzva, there is a limit. There's a set number of public offerings on Shabbat and Yom Tov. We know we have the 2 Tamidim, the continual offering of the morning and the afternoon, and a set number of Musaf offerings depending on the day. So therefore, if somebody is making a mistake and he's trying to bring like an extra public offering, of course that's invalid. And of course he should be liable to bring a chatas for breaking Shabbos. Tomar b'Pesach, could you say the same thing for Karban Pesach? She'ein loy kitzva. Pesach has no limits. Pesach has no end. There could be 1,000, 10,000 Karbanot Pesach brought on that day. There's no set number. Therefore, if somebody has a lamb or a kid and he is slaughtering it for the sake of a Karban Pesach, even though this animal, Lamaisa, is not a Karban Pesach, he should be patur according to Yeshua, because Tal b'Devar Mitzvah. Rabbi Meir adds to this discussion, patur, even if somebody is he thinks he's doing an offering for the sake of a communal offering, which is allowed on the Shabbat, he's still patur, even though the Maisa it's not, because there's a limit to those, because he thinks he's doing a mitzvah, so he's more expansive on the doctrine of Taba Devar Mitzvah. Great. Mishnah Vav, the similar concept we've learned before, Shachatu Shlo La'ochlav, slaughtered a Karban Pesach for people who are not able to eat it. They're too old or they don't have teeth. Shlo La'menuya, people who are not in the group. La'arelim, L'tzameim, for people who do not have a bris milah or a tameh and they cannot eat the sacrificial meat. Chayev, if he did so on Shabbat, he's chayev to bring a Karban chatas for breaking Shabbat. La'ochlav shelo la'ochlav, people who can and can't eat. L'menuyav shelo l'menuyav, people in the group and not in the group. L'mulin arelim, people with a bris milah and without. L'tachari mitzameim, people who are ritually pure and impure. Pater, because his act of slaughter is allowing the Karban Pesach to be eaten by those people who are fit halachically to eat it. Shechatu v'nimsa bal mum chayiv. If they slaughtered it and they say, hey, look, there's a mum, there's a blemish on the outside of this animal, he's chayiv because he should have checked it first. We do not slaughter a bal mum. It's not fit to be a karban, not fit to be a kosher offering, so he should have checked first. But by contrast, Shechatu, he slaughtered his Karban Pesach, v'nimsa treifa beseter, potter, and they find inside the animal it's a treifa. Now he's potter. He did a slaughter. Lamaisa, they can't use the animal. They can't eat the animal. We don't eat treif for both sides. Can't eat a treif, but they opened it up and they found there's a hole in the lungs. That's the most common treifa. It's one we always check for continually is a hole in the lungs. So if he finds that, we had no way of knowing before the slaughter. So his act of slaughter was done under the pretenses that he was really doing the mitzvah and they were really going to eat this Karban Pesach. So when it finds out they can't because it's a treifa, potter. Shechatuv, he slaughtered it, v'noda, and then finds out, shemashcha b'ayli mesyodam, that the people who were registered on this animal, in this group, they've all withdrawn from this group and joined other groups. Oshemetu, or the nebuch, they passed away. Oshenitmu, or they became tameh and could no longer eat the Karban Pesach. Potter, because at the time he did the shechita and started the offering process, he thought everyone was good to go, and he was slaughtering it for an allowed purpose. Karban Pesach b'moado. Yashar kochachem, chag kasher v'sameach.